All right, so we're back with the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. We are we've been talking about worldliness and the corruption of lust and greed in this world. The date that we're on is Sunday, May 25th, 1884, and we're a good ways into that conversation. And the master's going to start right off. He's saying, "Everyone I talk to says, 'Yes, sir, my wife is good.'" Now, he had just been finished giving us a talk about the nature of worldliness and how seductive it is, and how, like a slowly sloping hill, you don't realize how far down you've fallen because it's all in reality, the world of lust and greed, for sure, is the world of relativity, where everything finds its value by being related to something else. And that's the only way things can be valued in a relative world. And so in the relative world, it's easy to get trapped into slavery and never know that you're a slave. In the terms of lust and greed, the reason for that is that you serve the body and the mind, right? Faithfully. The body wants pancakes today. No, it wants an omelet. Well, you better make an omelet now instead of a pancake, And you'll serve the body. You'll this bed's not comfortable. I need another blanket. I need another mattress. I need a whatever. And we spend our entire life serving body and serving mind, never aware that we are in bondage because we have identified with body mind. We think that they are us. And so it's ourself that we're serving. We think by fulfilling our desires. We think. But when that truth dawns, we come to realize that we've been thinking all wrong. This body has nothing to do with us. It's a dream body and a dream that belongs to us, but the body has no special relationship to us whatsoever. And then the mind as well, with all of its states of being. And so we serve this body mind thinking that freedom, we even define freedom as being able to do what we desire, which is the real cherry on top of the cake, that you have described your freedom by a bondage to your desires. And that is Maya. This is this world that we live in, where we are all chained to the back of the plow pony, working ourselves to death for things that don't exist, for things that only are what they are for a moment. In this world of constant change. So here we are trying to fill ourselves with dream stuff, trying to content ourselves with dream stuff, stuff that doesn't have any existence in the world that from which we come, that world of one without a second, that isness of Satchitananda, our native being. So Ramakrishna here is introducing us to that, saying, yes, everyone I talk to says, yes, sir, my wife is good. Nobody says my wife is bad. Everybody laughs. Those who constantly live with woman in gold or lust and greed, I'm going to take that tack from here on in. I'm going to just read woman in gold as lust and greed, because that's what he's talking about. And he's talking to a room full of men, so he uses woman and greed. But if he was talking to a room full of women, it would be men and greed. And so just know that it's not a particular dislike of women here. It's a dislike of lust here. And that's really the crux of it, because lust is the problem, not what you lust for. That can be any number of things in this world, but it's the lust itself that will harms you, that keeps you deluded, keeps you busy serving and grabbing things that you can never own and can never keep. So nobody says that his wife is bad. Those who constantly live with lust and greed are so infatuated with it that they don't see things properly, right? And we just talked about that. What don't they see properly? They don't know the definition of freedom, no idea of what it means to be free. They don't know the definition of fulfillment, because in the world of relativity, there's constantly a hunger. You chase your desires, the biggest desires, that most people have. They're desires that the more you have, the more you want. And we've talked in the past too about those ones that don't make you want more necessarily. They turn you into connoisseurs, so that not just any run-of-the-mill cup of coffee is going to fulfill your desire anymore. No, you have to have beans from a certain country in the world, from a certain year, grown on a certain farm, baked to a certain temperature of finished, and then ground in a certain way and prepared in a certain way. And so this is the nature of the desires, and this is what he's telling us. While we are engaged in these desires, while we are lost in the world, not discerning, not paying attention to the inner workings of ourselves, we think everything is fine. We think, oh yeah, that's my lovely wife, and that's my lovely husband, and that's my lovely dog, and that's my lovely kids, and all is well, right? Except for those evenings where you're sitting alone on the edge of your bed and there's no one there to distract you, and you take an inventory of where you are and who you are. And if you're brave, you can face the emptiness and the loneliness that is usually there somewhere to be dug out. You can feel the frustration of living a life where you've been grabbing and harvesting and yet are still just as hungry as you've ever been. And we come to that notion. Until then, we are just infatuated with the world and we can't see things properly. We're not happy, but we don't know why. So we stop thinking about it and we turn to the world to escape. All right. We take solace in the world, and all it can do is give us distractions. There's only one refuge that can actually bring us to transcendence, and that's refuge in God, refuge in the beloved. But if we don't know of the beloved, if we don't know of our nature, we've never experienced it or had anything point us in that direction, then the refuge of the world is where we think we need to go. And all of our addictions, all of the addictions that we can have, are basically us trying to find a lasting peace in a world that cannot give it to us. And so we're always having to take more, and that's how we get trapped there. He says, those who constantly live with lust and greed are so infatuated with it that they don't see things properly. Chess players oftentimes cannot see the right move for their pieces on the board, but those who watch the game from a distance can understand the moves more accurately, right? Because we don't know who we are, right? We don't know what it means to be a human being. And so if you don't know who you are, how can you know what you're actually looking for, what you actually need, what is actually satisfying to you? And so if you misidentify yourself and you chase after the wrong things, they don't turn out to be giving you a happy life. They they keep disappearing, running through your fingers, as it were. I remember a very powerful time for me in my life. I was in a theater class, and I know I've shared this before, but this was, I think, the beginning of my search for meaning in my life, for something deeper, even though I had no idea at the time what that would be. But in this experience, I was in this class, and it was the first week of class, so all of us were new. None of us knew each other. It was an acting class. And the teacher paired us up with each other, one-on-one, and we had to stand toe-to-toe with the person we were paired with. And we were told that we could not break eye contact with that person. We could not say anything to that person. We could not touch that person. But we could not move our feet from the place that they were, and we could not break eye contact. Those were the rules. And so he paired us up. We all started staring at each other. And it was a powerful experience to look into a stranger's eyes and not be able to pull back or to protect yourself, and just to sit there looking. And different people in the class everybody had strong reactions, but all of them quite different from each other. Some people were giggling, uncontrollably. Some people were weeping. I mean, terrible weeping. Some people were just in a stunned silence, and it was just an amazing experience. And about 5 minutes into it, which is a long time when you're sitting there staring at someone, the teacher took his pointing stick and he smacked it against the wall. Bang, 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 bang. And then he started speaking. He said, every time that the stick hits the wall, a moment of your life is gone. You will never have it back. You cannot recreate it. You cannot fix it. You can't go back and do it again. It's finished. And he went on to explain how for theater people, for actors, that the moment is their tool, that you have to become intimately aware of the moment that is with you now. And to be an actor is to learn to take that moment, give it a shape and a definition, and throw it out to the audience. And so he went on with that class. I, however, went straight into therapy. Because I walked out of that class in a panic because I could see my life running through my fingers, unstoppable. I could not stem the flow of time through my hands. And I knew that every moment I had that much less of life left to live. And I knew that when I was breathing my last breath, that there would be, I could not possibly put a price on these moments that right now are just passing like water through my fingers. And it was a terrifying thought because I could not think of anything that was worth spending a moment on. Spending a moment of my finite life, what was there that I could reasonably spend that on? And I started a quest that lasted, I don't know, 10 years. At that point, kind of a desperation of trying to find what is worth living for, what is worth spending life on. And I'm happy to say that I found it. Love is the only thing worth spending our life on. Becoming perfect lovers, falling in love with a perfect love, and coming to know through that love our nature, that we are in fact composed of love with wisdom, and that's what gives us our being. So that is to understand things more accurately, to know where we are and why, if we live in the world thinking we're body and mind and we chase all of those things, we're not going to be able to see accurately. We're not going to be able to suss out what's wrong and try and fix it. We'll try all kinds of things, but our mind and our senses will constantly lead us into things of the body and mind to find our solution. And that is what makes spiritual life so difficult, is because we are trying for the first time to not have anything tell us anything. We want to know what we are by being what we are and nothing more. And that happens in a very profound silence inside. He goes on and says, woman or lust is the embodiment of Maya, right? It's the embodiment. It is the essence of Maya. Because if you look at it, lust and greed is what creates everything that you're looking at in this world. All of it comes from lust and greed. All of us have an intuitive knowledge of being something infinite, something full, something powerful. But we don't know what that is. It's just this faint, nagging memory that keeps us looking for perfection in this world. We're just constantly searching for a perfection, for an ideal. And there doesn't exist anything in this world that is perfect or that is infinite or that is immortal. And so we should not know of these things, but we do. And we come into this world trying to recreate them. We choose thousands of lovers to try and create a sense of oneness. We try and create name and fame for a sense of security. We try to create money for a sense of security. We exercise and eat well, just keeping all of our digits crossed that we can be immortal in some way. And so we spend all of this time trying to recreate what we intuitively know to be ourself in this world. And that is what desire is born of. Desire is born of our ignorance of who we are, and it is fed by us trying to recreate what we intuitively know about ourselves in the finite world. So trying to create the infinite in the finite is never going to be satisfying. And that's our lot. And that is what is broken. And lust is at the root of that. It is because of lust that we know that we're male or female or something in between. It's because of lust that we determine whether a person's old or young. You know, are they a good mother for our children or a good father for our children? We look at their wealth. We're concerned about their wealth because of lust, right? And because of greed. We were concerned of whether they're fat or skinny, whether they're healthy or not healthy. All of these judgments stem from that one motivating factor of lust in this world, lust and greed. And so Ramakrishna says, of lust and greed, this whole world is manifest for us to play our games, for us to find out who we are, really through a process of neti, whether we like it or not, because everything that we can taste, touch, hear, or smell in this world is neti. It's not us. Anything you can experience is not you. And so we learn by running and collecting all of these things for lifetimes after lifetimes. And every lifetime it ends the same. I did not find what I needed. I did not find what was satisfying. I did not find who I am. And so we come back, pick it up again, try again, taste everything again, touch everything again, in that desperation to try and see. He says, in the course of his hymn to Rama, Narada said, "O Rama, all men are parts of you, and all women are parts of Sita." Right? That's Shakti, Shiva, and Shakti, the absolute unchanging and the power of God, this world. All women are parts of Sita, the personification of your Maya. Please deign to grant that I may have pure love for your lotus feet, and that I may not be deluded by thy world bewitching Maya. I do not want any other favor than that. So what's he asking for? He's asking for the knowledge of love itself. Show me the love that is within me, that is that Satchitananda that I am. Show me that it's enough for me, and let me give it my pure love for no other reason than for the sake of its beauty, for the sake of its wonder, that I want that. And not to be deluded by this bewitching Maya. How do we get deluded? By believing that there's something here that we can eat. That's how we get deluded. We are in a dream. We forget that we're in a dream. And being in the dream, we think that we can eat. We think that we can feed ourselves. We think that we can find shelter. We think that we can find longevity. We think that we can find security and safety. But we're in a dream. Everything we pick up is merely dream stuff, looking like an element, looking like a house, looking like food, looking like a person. And yet it's made only of mind stuff. It has no real existence and will not be what it is for very long. Everything is constantly changing, right? And so when we live in this world, forgetting that it's a dream and thinking that there's actually something outside of ourself that's going to fulfill us, that is the delusion of Maya. That is what he's praying now for, to be protected against. Do not let me see anything outside of myself that I think could give me something. Let me learn that there is nothing to be taken from Maya, because nothing is real. Nothing stays what it is. Houses become dust. Forests become deserts. Deserts become oceans. Oceans become deserts again. You know, this world is constantly changing. So I pray that I might have pure love for your lotus feet, and that I may not be deluded by this world bewitching Maya. I do not want any other favor. I want nothing but this reality, this knowledge of self, this contentment in being. And that is our saving grace, that there is something here for us. It's what we are. We don't have to look for it. we have to accept it. We have to open to it. We have to allow ourselves to believe that something not of the body and not of the mind is who we are, and that it itself is our fulfillment. Surendra's younger brother and his nephews were present. The brother worked in an office, and one of the nephews was studying law. The master to Surendra's relatives: my advice to you is not to become attached to the world. All right, that's good advice. What does it mean to be attached to the world? Anybody want to talk about what does it mean? How do you know if you're attached to something?
If you're upset, if you lose it.
Ooh, that's a good one. Yeah, that's very good. It's very good. So if you're upset when you lose it, all right. How else? What are some other ways of knowing that we're attached to something?
If you long for it,
yes,
like try to obtain it.
Yes, yes. And why do you try to obtain it? Because you think there's something there for you, right? You think there's somehow it describes me and mine. Somehow it benefits me and mine. So attachment is identity. Attachment means taking the words me and mine and applying it to something outside of body-mind, something that's seen through the senses or through imagination, right? So anything that we attach the words me and mine to is an attachment. Anything that we think will feed us or sate our hunger is an attachment. Anything that we long for, that we're looking for, is an attachment. Anything that we're trying to get away from or that we're adverse to, that also is attachment, right? We're attached to not being cold. And so we stay inside on a cold day. All right, so he says, my advice to you is don't become attached to the world. Understand, there's nothing for you there. There's nothing that can feed you there, right? You see, Rakal now understands what is knowledge and what is ignorance, right? Because that's also something we can't see when we are living in worldliness with attachment to body-mind, right? What is knowledge, right? Part of the knowledge of a worldly man is that money gives him power, that money gives him freedom, that sex is a way toward union, toward ecstasy. You know, all these temporary things point at infinite things. And so to be deluded is to believe that they are infinite or that they will lead us somewhere. They will sate us somehow, right? So real knowledge is the knowledge of who you are, the knowledge of isness, the knowledge that doesn't have to be said to you, right? The knowledge that only becomes apparent when everything is quiet, the mind and the body. Right? And what is ignorance? Ignorance is just to think that you are the body, to think that you're the mind, and that they have anything to do with you. Right? And then Sri Nisargadatta added that very wonderful little piece of news. He says, your problem is not attachment to the body. That's not your problem. Your problem is that you're attached to only one body. You think this particular body is you, but in reality, this is your dream. This is your dream, and you have dreamed all of these bodies. You have dreamed everything and everyone equally. So that's ignorance, to see separate. We see in others what we see in ourselves. That's why in Vedanta, the most important question is, who am I? What am I? What is this? Right? Because only through that are we able to find out what we are. And once we see it in ourselves, once we see that divine image in ourselves, we will see it everywhere. Because we always assume that others are like ourselves in that regard. We map ourselves onto them. He can discriminate between the real and the unreal. So I say to him, go home. You may come here once in a while and spend a day or two with me. Right? So he doesn't need that constant watching of the physician. He can go home and not be so much in danger. That's what Ramakrishna says. He says, before you enter into the world, get some realization. spend some work, getting to know God, getting to know the divine nature within yourself. And that's like rubbing your hands with oil before you crack open. Was it the jackfruit that's all sticky? If you've got oil on your hands, you can manage. If you prepare yourself, then you won't get caught in the world. So in your younger days, and then unfortunately, this also worldly people, we do it backwards. We play in our younger days, and then we try and do spiritual life when we're old and decrepit and can't do anything. We can't sit still because the body hurts. We can't control our mind because we've taught it to be dependent on enjoyment for our whole life. And so we sit down as haggard old folks trying to put together our realization. Well, that's not going to happen. You at that point have a freight train of samskaras running behind you, and you're going to try and turn that train at a 90-degree angle all of a sudden. Good luck. It can be done, but it's messy. And so know that it's going to be a big challenge. So while you're still young or younger, while you still have these abilities to work hard, to sit long, to control yourself, to learn how to focus, do that. Learn how to focus, learn how to control yourself. Those are the two most important things for spiritual practice. And then do your practice. Spend time alone with the divine, away from your connections to the world. And begin to train yourself. Start laying in your bed and imagine it being your deathbed. Start looking at yourself as you age and accept each thing that happens to you until you can joyfully laugh at it and know that it's for your best. That gray hair, those wrinkles, those weird things showing up, all of that are signs of grace of the beloved trying to one by one unpeel your fingers from your death grip of the material world, of this world, right? He says, have a friendly relationship with one another. That will be your good and make you all happy. In a theater, the performance goes well only if the musicians sing with one voice. And that also gladdens the hearts of the audience. Right? So he's talking about Sangha. He's talking about what we talk about here on Sundays, our getting together, our gathering together. That's our Sangha. Have a friendly relationship with each other. Why? Because we come there out of our practice. Right? We come there knowing how to treat each other, how to recognize God in each other, how to worship God in each other by watching each other's needs and by fulfilling each other's desires and by helping each other be strong, speaking only well of each other, looking and seeing only the good in each other so we can fan that flame of goodness and rise up that way. We protect each other from weaknesses. Right? We don't see each other's weaknesses. We protect each other from our given weaknesses. And so this is Sangha. Have a friendly relationship with one another. That will be for your good, and that will make all of you happy. Right? So this is what our gathering together, even on this is a form of Sangha on Zoom. It's limited a bit. But it's given root to some great friendships. It's given root to some great relationships as we can take on this safety, this refuge in each other as Sangha. It says, in the theater performance, it goes well only if the musicians sing with one voice. This is the thing that religious people have to understand, right? The Sangha should be the most beautiful experience of our week, no doubt. Getting together should be beautiful for us because we're putting our practice in it. We're putting our focus into it. We're putting our heart and our soul into it, into the one thing that is true and real, the divine principle in each one of us. And the performance in the world that's the only way that it's going to go on is if we are in harmony with one another, right? If it's evident to the whole world that, wow, with this troupe of theater folks here, something's happening there. They really care about each other. They love each other. They're there for each other, right? And that is what we're about. We're about love. We're about sincerity. We're about truth. That is who we are as children of the Mother. And so we work desperately in our one-on-one time with Mother. We work in our practice every day to set free this vision within us, this knowledge of our infinity, of our immortality, of our love, of our ideal. Right? So we sit in that, and when we come to know it, when we've become established into it, we share it with each other. And through that, sharing it with each other, it gets shared with the entire world. That's exactly what happened with Ramakrishna. His band of lovers around him, all of his direct disciples. What did they do? They mastered love. And what did they do? They went out and loved. They went out and started hospitals. They went out and started orphanages. They went out teaching the Vedanta to the qualified students. They went out and served, right? They loved. And how did they change the world? By loving God in the world. Loving God everywhere they went. Serving God everywhere they went. And this is what we do, because it's what we are. Do your worldly duties with a part of your mind and direct most of it to God. A sadhu should think of God with 3/4 of his mind, and with 1/4 should do his other duties. He should be very alert about spiritual things. The snake is very sensitive in its tail. Its whole body reacts when it is hurt there. Similarly, the whole life of a sadhu is affected when his spirituality is touched. Right? And what does spirituality mean? That means knowing that we are spirit and not material. It means that we don't run by the limitations of body. We don't define ourselves by the limitations of mind. We are spirit. And the nature of spirit is immortal, ever free, ever pure, cannot be stained or even touched by this world. That it is composed entirely of love. That life is merely the expression of that love, the expression of that nature. So we should be very sensitive about spiritual things, right? Which means to not get our world made of material things, not to spend too much on the house we live in, not to spend too much on the people that we live with, not to spend too much on the car that we drive, not to spend too much on earthly comforts, but to keep that discernment always running in our mind, knowing I'm spirit. All of these things are temporary. All of these things will go away. I have to find my contentment in the midst of them, in that one thing that will never go away, that one thing that will never change, the I am, the isness of Satchitananda that is me, right? So do your duties with the part of your mind, right? So do the things that need to be done, pay attention to them, but do them as worship. Don't let them bring you into a cycle that involves any of the triads, right? Don't let them bring you into the cycle of time, space, causation, where everything has a reason and a timing and a rightness. No, you stay in the moment. The moment is always perfect. And from that perfect moment, you worship by doing, by expressing, by putting your Satchitananda into everything that you're touching, everything that you're doing in that moment. And that's how we pay attention to spiritual things, right? And we watch internally. That which is changing is unreal. So we always remember, don't put your egg in that basket. That basket's not real, right? So we're constantly looking at that. And so we're constantly paying attention to spiritual things. What? The unchanging things, the unchanging oneness that's within us, right? That in us, which is watching and observing all the time, our awareness, right? So similarly, the whole life of a sadhu is affected when his spirituality is touched. And how do we touch spirituality? By seeing God, right? By recognizing God in all things. Ramakrishna talks about, the one man whose pipe was made of the wood that made the flute of Krishna or something. And because he remembered that, he went into ecstasy. Or Ramakrishna, when he was walking through the park and he saw that English boy standing with his arm up and his leg crossed over the other, and immediately he thought of Krishna and he went into ecstasy. So anytime we see any spiritual teaching or we see any spiritual symbol, we recognize the thing behind it, right? When we see a beautiful mountain, we don't go, oh, what a beautiful mountain. We look, oh, look at the beauty of God as exhibited by that mountain. We're always looking through the world. We don't look at the world. because the world is always pointing. The world is not what it is. It points to what it is. And so we look at the world with the eyes that look beyond. What is it pointing at? What is the beauty of that mountain pointing at? What is the beauty of that woman or the handsomeness of that man? What is it pointing at? Where is the, when you go to a theater show and it's excellent, Ramakrishna says, anywhere you see excellence in the arts, know that I am there, right? Because all of that is pointing, right? The ballerina in her perfection and all of that amazing whatnot of what she did. What is that? None of that will last. Goodness gracious, that's one of the shortest careers in the world, is a ballerina. So we don't look at the ballerina, we look through it. And how do we look through it? We recognize that discipline of sadhana that she's put into that life, that focus, that one pointedness that's gone into it. Ramakrishna says, remember, if anybody who's excelled in the arts like that, just a simple turn to their mind, and they could realize God immediately, because they've already learned the discipline, they've already learned the self-control, they've already been willing to do the hard work for that. Sri Ramakrishna was going to the pine grove and asked Gopal of Sinti to take his umbrella to his room. Arrangements had been made at the Panchavati for the kirtan. When the master had returned and taken his seat again amongst the devotees, the musician began her song. Suddenly there came a rainstorm. The master went back to his room with the devotees, the musician accompanying them to continue her songs there. Master to Gopal, have you brought the umbrella? Oh, no, sir. I forgot all about it while I was listening to the music. Can you hear the lesson already? Right? So he says, no, I forgot all about it while I was listening to the music. See, so he was lost in the senses and he forgot his responsibility. It's a perfect lesson right there for us. Don't be charmed by the senses. Don't be distracted by the beauty in this world. Don't let it make you want it. Look at it and recognize God in it and move on, right? Remember the 3-step process that we always pull out of the Garden of Eden story? When Eve looks at the tree of egoism, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, she said it's a 3-step process, remember? And we have to always be on guard, because this is exactly what he's teaching us here. Number 1, she looked at the fruit and she said it was beautiful, right? So she stepped into her senses, found beauty. If she had seen that it was God's beauty and just left it at that, she would have been fine. Perfect. It was a pointer at the beauty of God, but she didn't. She went to level 2. What was the level 2? It looked like it would be good for food. She wanted it. She wanted to take it and make it a part of her, right? So she steps into her senses, sees something beautiful, wants to take it and eat it. And the third thing, she believed that it would fulfill her. She believed that it would make her like God, right? That she would be able to gather something from having that. Okay, so that's the 3-step process, and we're seeing it here, with Gopal, forgetting the umbrella. He was entranced with the world, entranced with the music, forgot his responsibility to protect the master from the rain, there. No, sir, I forgot all about it while listening to the music. The umbrella had been left in the Panchavati, and Gopal hurried to fetch it. Master, I am generally careless, but not to that extent. Rakal also is very careless. Referring to the date of an invitation, he says the 11th instead of the 13th. And Gopal, he belongs in a herd of cows. I get what he's saying there, because when he talks about the invitation, he says, oh, the 11th instead of the 13th. That's just a lack of precision. And I'm more guilty of that than anybody I've ever met in my life. I don't think anybody can live in the made-up world that I live in, where I just have, if I read something, I'll learn the essence of it, but I will never remember where I read it and who it was and what it was about. And every time I tell that story, it will be with a different cast of characters. It'll be the same story. It'll just be different cast of characters that happened in a different place at a different time, right? Because I just don't have that discipline that he's talking about there. That particularity on having you're fully present in the moment, so you see things clearly and you remember them clearly, right? It's I'm always ashamed when I go to India, because I meet some of these old sadhus and they'll remember the last time they talked to me. I won't even remember that I met them, and they'll remember what we talked about even, and they'll know where it happened. And I just wander around like that with these seers that are just so disciplined and have lived such pristine lives. I see exactly what Thakur says, that I belong in a herd of cows, just walking and following everyone else along and not having any self-awareness or any seeing.
He also said that because the guy's name Gopal.
Mm-hmm.
Cow.
Yeah, no, definitely. But he's talking about the lack of discipline, just that herd mentality, not seeing, not being self-controlled and responsible like that. The musician sang a song about the monastic life of Chaitanya. Now and then she improvised the lines, "He will not look upon a woman, for that is against the sannyasi's duty. Eager to take away men's sorrows, he will not look upon a woman. For the Lord's birth as Sri Chaitanya, otherwise would be in vain," right? And so not look upon a woman, that just means he's not looking in the senses. He's not looking, he doesn't define himself by the senses, by the body, doesn't define himself by the mind. He knows his nature, knows what he is. And he knows the reason that he's here is to express that love. And so we see all of that right there. You're right. He says he's eager to take away the men's sorrows, right? That's what we are in our nature. We're eager to take away people's sorrows. That's who you are. That's how you live a fulfilling life, is by obeying that nature of yours, right? He will not look upon a woman. He will not look upon anything of the senses that will call him out of his wholeness within, that will call him out of his security, that will call him out of his strength, that will call him out of his contentment. He will not look at the senses. In this case, the woman or lust is being used because that's the foundation. That's the most powerful one that we have to endure, they have to deal with. And so he says that he will not do that. It's against the sannyasin's duty. What is the sannyasin's duty? To be in the presence of God always, and to live a life of inspiration from life in Satchitananda. Right? So everything that a sannyasin does should be motivated by that love of Satchitananda, by that wisdom of Satchitananda, through the being of that Satchitananda. He has no other duty but that. Eager to take away men's sorrows, he will not look upon a woman, for the Lord's birth as Sri Chaitanya otherwise would be in vain. If Ramakrishna, Jesus, Buddha, Rama, if they just came down and did what the rest of us did, where would salvation be? Where would our knowledge of grace be? Where would our belief in a pure love come from? Right? That's because we would have no idea of these things if we hadn't seen them demonstrated in these great souls, if we hadn't seen the compassion of Buddha, the sacrifice of Jesus, the universality and renunciation of Ramakrishna, the tender motherhood of Sri Sharda Devi. If we didn't have these manifestations of God coming and opening their heart to us, we would be lost. We would think that we are our own ideal, right? And we would be lost in the relative. It'd be very difficult to find our way out. So Ramakrishna says he was a hole through which God can be seen. He's our pole star. He's the one we measure our inner life with, so that we can know where we are. Right? The master stood up as he heard about Chaitanya's renunciation, and he went into samadhi. The devotees put garlands of flowers around his neck. Bhavanat and Rakal supported his body lest he should fall on the ground. Vijay, Kedar, Ram, M, Latu, and other devotees stood around him in a circle, recalling one of the scenes of Chaitanya's kirtan. The master gradually came down to the sense plane. He was talking to Krishna, now and then uttering the word Krishna. He could not say it very distinctly because of the intensity of his spiritual emotion. He said, Krishna, 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 Satchitananda. Nowadays I do not see your form. Now I see you both inside of me and outside. I see that it is you who have become the universe, have become all living beings, have become the 24 cosmic principles, and everything else. You alone have become mind, have become intelligence, everything. It is said in the hymn of salutation to the Guru, I bow down to the Guru by whose grace I have realized him who pervades the invisible universe, the indivisible universe of the animate and the inanimate. So we bow down to that inner teacher, that one teacher common to all of us, by whose grace we realize, right? Always bring it back to that, not by effort, not by achievement, not by anything that we add to the cake. Is that cake made? That cake is made of grace and grace alone. And we look at that Guru and we accept that grace and let that love be burned in our heart. Let that love be kindled in our heart in a response to such an amazing gift, such a freedom, such a possibility. You alone are the indivisible. Again, it is you who pervades the universe of the animate and the inanimate. You are verily the manifold universe. Again, you alone are its basis. O Krishna, you are my life. O Krishna, you are my mind. O Krishna, you are my intelligence. O Krishna, you are my soul. O Govinda, you are my life breath. You are my life itself. What an amazing meditation. What an amazing meditation. You alone are the indivisible. Again, you are who pervade the universe of the animate and the inanimate. You know, that's the looking around your room right now. What do you see when you look around your room? Because what he's seeing is God. Are you seeing staplers and trash cans and beds and chairs and art? This is what we see, that Ramakrishna sees the beloved everywhere represented. He knows everything in Maya points. Nothing in Maya is real. Everything points. So he would walk into my room here and he'll see the art, but he'll see what it's pointing at. He'll see the inspiration of the artist and the longing of the artist in that painting. He'll find the name of God immediately that makes that painting beautiful, right? Vijay was also in an ecstatic mood. The master asked him, my dear sir, have you too become unconscious? No, sir, said Vijay humbly. The music went on. The musician was singing about the blinding love of God as she improvised the lines, O beloved of my soul, within the chamber of my heart, I would have kept you day and night. The master again went into samadhi. His injured arm rested on Bhavanath's shoulder. Sri Ramakrishna partly regained outer consciousness. The musician improvised. Why should one who, for thy sake, has given up everything endure so much suffering? The master bowed to the musician, sat down to listen to the music. Now and then he became abstracted. When the musician stopped singing, Sri Ramakrishna began to talk to the devotees. To Vijay and the others, what is prema? He who feels it, this intense and ecstatic love of God, not only forgets the world, but forgets even the body, which is so dear to all. Chaitanya experienced it. The master explained this to the devotees by singing a song describing the ecstatic state of prema. Oh, when will dawn the blessed day, when tears of joy will flow from my eyes as I repeat Lord Hari's name. The master began to dance, and the devotees joined him. He caught M by the arm and dragged him into the circle. Thus dancing, Sri Ramakrishna again and again went into samadhi, standing transfixed. He looked like a picture on a canvas. Kedar repeated the following hymn to bring his mind down to the plane, from the plane of samadhi. We worship the Brahman consciousness in the lotus of the heart. The undifferentiated, who is adored by Hari, Hara, and Brahma, who is attained by yogis in the depths of their meditation, the scatterer of the fear of birth and death, the essence of knowledge, of truth, the primal seed of the world. Sri Ramakrishna gradually came back to the plane of normal consciousness. He took his seat and chanted the names of God. Om Satchitananda, Govinda, 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 Yogamaya, Bhagavata, Bhakta, Bhagavan. The master took the dust from the place where the kirtan had been sung and touched it to his forehead. See, everything becoming holy to him. Everything becoming pure to him. He takes what we would consider material and wipes it on his forehead and opens the heart to worship the beloved. You know. A little later, Sri Ramakrishna was sitting on a semicircular porch facing the Ganges, the devotees sitting by his side. Now and then the master would exclaim, "Ah, Krishna Chaitanya." You know, he's in, right, because he's sitting there where? In the drawing room of God, in the heart, enjoying that presence. So he's calling out that name because he knows that presence. That presence is his constant companion. The master to Vijay and the others. There's been so much chanting of the Lord's name in the room. That is why the atmosphere has become so intense. So intense. But where is the original room? It's in you. Your body is the original temple. Chant the name of God in there so that that atmosphere becomes your own atmosphere. It becomes your own experience of your body, right? So that you can sit there, close your eyes, and feel the presence of God in the heart and have yourself utter naturally, "Oh, Krishna Chaitanya," right? Or Jesus, or Rama, or Sharada, right? So this anyway, this is for us someday. Hold on to it. Work hard at it.